Welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah. There's my cat Play-Doh. She's like, pay attention to me. I bought this end table for $5 at Goodwill, and I want to see if I can make it match a table I already have. Thankfully, the piece is painted, so things like this chip on the top, I don't need to worry about because I need to paint the whole thing. So just as I look the piece over, I always want to assess what are the dings and nicks and things that I need to patch or consider in flipping a piece. And this top is pretty rough, which I love stained tops, but this is going to get painted. The inside of the drawer is a little rough too, but I'm going to keep this, so I'm not too worried about that. I was really impressed with how sharp this line was. I have not seen a drawer like this, so maybe Thomasville does this. I don't know, but this is a nice piece of furniture. I had ladies saying as I was walking out of the Goodwill, "Oh my, that's so beautiful. I love that piece." And I just laughed because I'm like, this is so dated. But this handle caught my eye. I'm like, this is like an upside down castle. And sure enough, the piece is put on upside down. It doesn't match the other piece that I'm going to try to match this to, so that's going to come off anyway. So I usually take the hardware off of my pieces and then clean them up before I do anything. But before cleaning, I'm just looking at this piece and I could not get over these curves. For one, they don't match my other piece, but they look so odd to me. They look like animal body parts on a cow or something. I can't do this. Besides the fact that they don't match. So I'm trying to think, how can I solve this? I've cut off curvy parts before on other pieces, so I'm trying to think, do I add curve? Do I make it straight? I landed on, let's just cut these straight off because the other piece in my living room is just a straight bottom. So I put the tape down. I've learned through mistakes that when I have a veneer top like this has, if you don't put tape down, you increase the risk of things splintering and such. So I did on this one kind of mess it up. I didn't hit my angle right and I messed up the curve. I had to come in on the bottom side and kind of cut off the jagged part, but we'll come back and patch that later. And sometimes you don't cut perfectly straight. You just got to go back over it, cut a little more off. That's fine. I did decide maybe if I come from the middle going out, I could get a better cut because those legs were messing up getting a straight line. And things went much smoother once I went that route. So got all those cut off. And what do you think? Honest opinion, does it look better with them off? Obviously, at this point, they're not going back on. But I felt so much better about this. I was like, okay, I don't see cow when I see this piece. Now I see a nice end table piece. I can work with this. I will need to use some wood filler and try to mask and hide that mess up there, but that shouldn't be too bad. It's on the side. At least it's not on the front. Now that I got those taken care of, I'm ready to clean this down and wipe it up real good and make sure I have all the gunk off. I did have this thought. What if I took some of these pieces I cut off and try to shape them so they fit exactly into those curve spots so it would look straight? I'm painting this so I don't have to worry about blending wood tones or anything. And I thought about it for a while and I decided I don't have the appropriate tools to safely cut small wood like that. I was concerned I would end up losing a finger. The best thing I have is a jigsaw and these are tiny pieces and I'm like, nope, not going to do it. We'll leave the curves. It gives it a little uniqueness. For the drawer front, I came in with 120 grit sandpaper and sanded off the finish and the majority of the stain just on the drawer. And I did the sides. I do as much as I can with my orbital sander before I then come in with a smaller piece of sandpaper, again 180 or 120 grit, and sand it off what I couldn't safely get with my orbital sander. Between sandings, always try to wipe stuff clean. This was with a damp towel. I should have used a dry towel. But then I came in with my 180 grit sandpaper and sanded the next layer smooth. Then I wiped everything dry with a towel again between layers of sanding, just so you're not sanding in these larger grits of wood into your piece. And then I came in with a 220 grit and finish this off to get a nice smooth finish ready for my whitewash to match the other piece. And when that's all done, I just wipe it to clean. I don't really like it when a project requires me to sand or clean up a drawer. I don't know why. I think it's just hard to get in those corners and edges, and I'd rather a drawer just be clean. So I did decide to take the sander to this and see if I could get some of that staining out, and it wasn't really budging, so I was like, it's fine. At this point, I need to get this corner patched so that I can sand the top and the whole piece, and it's going to take a little bit for this to dry. This is older wood filler, and it feels like it takes a really long time to dry. Then on this bottom part, I tried using my one hand to fill the wood filler and the other hand to hold the camera, and it just wasn't working that great. So I eventually put that down and just did my best by myself, and here's how it looked. It's not perfect, but it looks better. At least it's not jagged. So now it's time to scuff sand the whole piece. I started off, I thought, I'll just use my orbital, but the finish came off so fast on these legs with the orbital that I realized, I don't want to go down to bare wood. I do want some type of a protective layer before bare wood. So I went to hand sanding and hand sanded all the curvy crevices, everything, and then came in with my orbital sander and did get like the edges where I had cut everything off that needed to be smoothed out and just make sure everything was nice and flush. Then I also scuff sanded the flat parts on the sides. And at this point, with trying to scuff sand the top of the table, that corner still wasn't dry, and I just avoided it, and I was like, I'll just come back and hand sand it. It'll be fine. I did choose to do the 120, wipe it, 180, wipe it, and then the 220 sanding for the top, because it's kind of tough. You want to scuff sand, but this top is really bumpy and stuff with all those watermarks and things. So I needed to get it smooth, because normally just with the rest of the piece, I only use the 180 grit sandpaper to scuff sand. But with this top, I need more than scuff sanding. I need to make it smooth so I have a nice flat surface. So I did all of that. And then I let it set in my house for a day because I'm going to paint it inside. And the next day, I was just running my hand over the top, and there were so many bumpy spots. And I thought I could paint over this and it would just feel like maybe wood grain coming through. But I didn't think that was the best idea. I didn't think it would give the best look. So I took it back outside and just did a 220 grit sanding again. And you can see this top is rough. It has some splotching and stuff. So I think we're doing the right thing to paint it. And for this corner is a day later, so it is finally set and dry. And I just very gently sanded this. This wood filler, I feel like, is so soft, and you can easily sand off everything you just put on if you're not careful. So I was very careful with that. But it is nice because then it's easy for awkward areas like this to really sand down what you need to get that looking better. All right, so now we can take it back inside and wipe it down and get ready to paint. I do like sometimes with things that have wonky, funky, curvy pieces to start upside down so I can make sure I get little crevices underneath and get a good base paint on. So once I got all the underside good and painted, I was like, can I flip this without messing up my paint job? Because it was still a little damp. So this is me awkwardly, carefully trying to flip it over without messing up what I've done, but being able to move on and paint the top. And this is Fusion Mineral Paint's paint that I'm using, and it goes on so nice, but it is thin, but it covers well. But I just try to make very gentle brush strokes when using this and kind of do a final brush over to get my paint going in all kind of the same direction and try to get some of those paintbrush marks off as best as I can. Now, I finally had this idea. Instead of cleaning out my paintbrush, and I had a very little bit of paint left in my cup from painting the base of it, that I just added water to make my wash, and then I'm not wasting anything. I don't know why I've never thought of this before. I wasn't going to rinse my brush out and just let it sit, because you just have to wait about 2 hours before you put on the next coat. But I was impatient and wanted to do this wash. So I went ahead and did it, and then I went ahead and rinsed the brush out before going on to my second coat. But with a wash, you just put the paint on, let it sit as long as you want, and then wipe off what you want. So before going in to put on my second coat of paint, I want to do, it's not really a scuff sand, it's like a smooth sand. I want to get any lumps and stuff out. And sometimes you can find little bumpy parts and then want to really get at it, but you want to be careful because getting at it too much will sand your paint off. So now it's time to go in with the second coat. I'm not flipping it upside down this time. I'm just going to awkwardly push it out of the way. So once I got the second coat on, you can see staining popping through. And that was a little bit of a concern because that could mean it's going to be visible when it's dry. However, this paint is amazing. And once dry, here you can see you don't see it at all. This could be something that could pop through later, maybe, if it's oils or something and eventually seep through the paint, but I'm hoping not, and I hope we're okay. Fusion Mineral Paint's paint is amazing. Now, somebody bumped my piece while it was sitting here for the paint to set before I put on the wax, and that was a bummer. I was like, man, yeah, it was fine. I wasn't that mad. I could fix this. It was a bummer. It was on the front. But I just dabbed my finger in a little bit of paint off of the lid of the paint can. And here's what it looks like after doing that once. And then once that dried a little, I came back and did my finger again and just made sure it was nice and covered. It'll be fine. So I also used Fusion Mineral Paint's wax for a top coat. Now, if you watched my last video about the process of flipping a piece of furniture and the steps and whatnot, I talk about how for a piece like this, it's better to use a poly top coat than a wax. The reason I'm doing a wax, one, it dries fast, so it's very user-friendly, very low risk of error or messing it up. Like, this is very nice to use. But the other piece that I'm trying to match, I waxed. And that's one reason why I recommend not using wax as a top coat for a large surface like this that's going to have cups sitting on it and just decorations and lamps and stuff, because that wax is not as hard as a poly top coat and it just marks up easier. But in order for this to match the other one, I'm going to do the wax. And when doing a wax, you just buff it on. I have this special wax brush. I've never tried to wax without one, so I don't know if you can skip having this brush or not, but they're not that expensive. This one's from Walmart. So it's just get the brush, put on a layer of wax, and you want to make sure you cover the surface that you want good, rub it in, because this is your top coat, but you're like rubbing it into the paint, sort of. And the can says to let it sit for 5 minutes. So after it sits, you come back and then you wipe it off. But what I do is use a towel of a similar color to my paint, and you just kind of buff it. And you buff until you get a nice sheen. The can says if you want a brighter sheen to then go in and do a second coat. I usually just stick with one. I've never tried doing a second coat. And I think it looks pretty good. I think it has that nice matte finish. I like it. We're almost done now, but I did want to show you the corner that I patched. To make this look a little better, I probably should have added more wood filler, but it's not too bad, and it's in the back, so it's not going to be seen or noticed. I do like to use Howard Feed and wax on drawer glides. It just can help the drawers slide smoother. I don't know that this one had problems, but just refreshes the wood. And also use it on the drawers. This wood can really dry out over years and years of sitting in houses. So I think giving the wood a refresher with the Howard Feed and wax is nice. It just gives it a drink and makes it look, gives it a luster. And I added it on the drawer glide on the drawer as well. We're ready to put on hardware. So I went to the same hardware store that I think I got the other handle on the other piece at, and I could not find it. This is a 2.5 inch gap between the two holes, and like nothing is made that small anymore. So this handle was the best I could find, and it was not a match, and it looks so ridiculous on this huge drawer. I'm like, this is not okay. But I put it on because I wanted to see how it looked. I'll show you here in the living room. So here they are, side by side, and it looks so dumb. it not okay. So I decided, let's switch them. And that looks so much better. It actually works. I think it'll be okay. I'm bummed I couldn't find that same one, but it'll be okay. So here's the piece. It's all done. It doesn't look exact, but I think they look like they go together. You can tell me what you think. Obviously, it's the same paint, so color-wise they match. And mostly the style matches. So I don't know. It'll work. They're not going to be right next to each other in my living room. And a fun thing is with having this extra end table, I can now move on to my next flip being a piece that's in my living room that I painted a long time ago, and it needs a refresh. So now I can add that to my project list, and I'm sure that it will be in a future video soon. But I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's been helpful. I tried to be a little more detailed in how I flipped this piece. And if you liked it, shoot me a thumbs up. Comment, let me know what you think, and I hope to see you in a future video. Until next time.